Thanks, everybody. Welcome to Build. I'm your host, Ricky Camilleri. Before we get started, I want to thank our friends at Macy's for once again bringing spring to the Build stage. Their annual flower show is happening right now through April 7th in New York, Chicago, and San Francisco. This year's cosmic-inspired theme is The Journey to Paradisios. Head to Macys.com/flower show for more info. And everybody, I'm so excited for our next guest. Sarah Goldberg stars on HBO's Barry, where she plays Sally, an actress struggling for a career and in this season to find her voice. Let's take a look.
Do you think I'm a bad person, Mr. Cousineau?
I think you are deeply human, and I pray that people can change their nature. If they can't, you and I are in deep trouble.
Why isn't this working? This is crazy.
Excuse me, sir. Do you have these pants in size medium?
Those are women's pants.
Shit.
Barry, we're not doing the show. Janice is still missing. Jean is not ready.
She could be out there right now.
Is this you and Corbin Burnson?
No, that's Ronnie Cox.
Ronnie Cox.
Mr. Cousineau, you could use this class as therapy.
Thank you. Next. When you create a character, you lend him your unique self. And then you let everything out. Action.
Don't be an idiot. I thought you were amazing. You really went somewhere.
The LA operation is going super great.
Hey, man. Yo, bro.
I found a true friend and partner in Cristobal. But Esther is throwing complete monkey wrench into my relationship. I'm not asking you to help me with this. I'm telling you.
Come on, bro. You, me, team badass. You don't want to be a part of this? Oh, Barry, it's about to go off.
This is how you're earning a buck now, selling sports bras. If you tell the truth, they're never gonna look at you the same way again.
Barry, there is an inherent darkness in you. I had the same instinct about Charlie Manson. I looked in the mirror and I said, fella, you better get out of that guy's band.
Wow.
Good things can happen when you're honest about who you really are.
Was there ever a time in your life that you did something so terrible that you were ashamed?
Can't think of anything.
Will you keep on working on it? Go deep. I'm going to the John.
Everybody, please welcome Sarah Goldberg. Let's hear it.
Hi.
Hey.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Congratulations on season 2.
Thanks so much.
Amazing. I interviewed you last time for season
Yes,
1. I think it
with
was in the
Henry.
middle of season 1 when the reviews were great, but then the season ended and I feel like the reviews were incredible. Everyone went nuts for Barry.
Well, that's really lovely to hear.
Were you keeping, you must have noticed that a little bit, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think we were all really excited by the response to the show, and you know, we didn't fully know what we had. I mean, we started this process in 2016, January 2016. So it was a long old road, and there was like a year between the pilot and the first season. So for 2 years, it kind of felt like we had this like private little theater troupe and we'd done a play out in Pasadena, you know?
There was a year between the pilot
Yeah.
and the first season?
Yeah,
Wow.
between shooting them, and then another year between airing, you know, shooting and airing.
I guess is usually the case.
Yeah, these things take time. But that's sort of, it felt like this kind of private experience for all of those years, and we all became such good friends, and then suddenly it was like, oh, we have a TV show. It's like out in the world. So it was really lovely that it got the response that it did, because we want to keep making it. So.
Now I'm a few episodes ahead of what has aired. They send me screeners. I'm very super fancy.
You're special.
I'm super special. But so I don't want to spoil anything. I think we can talk a little bit. But before we even get to that, I love where they're taking your character this season.
Thanks.
I think it says so much about performance and writing, more so than it even just does about your specific character.
Yeah.
And I'm curious what you thought when you started getting those scripts, because the second season is always a place where suddenly the writers have more room to play with the characters.
Totally. I mean, I've never done a second season of anything before.
Congrats.
Thank you. So this is all very new for me, and it was such a delight to get to go back to playing the same character. And because we've laid down all of that groundwork, like you said in season 1, there's so much freedom now in what they can do with all of these characters. And what I love about all the characters on the show is that everyone's a liar and sort of trapped in this duality of the sort of truth that they're telling themselves and everyone around them, and then the actual truth. And this season is exciting because there's a real like yo-yo act as you watch all the veneers crack. And with Sally, we sort of dive into her past, and we get a little bit of her traumas in life that we sort of understand maybe why she behaves the way that she does. And you watch someone sort of struggling with the back and forth between trying to keep up this facade that she's worked so hard to create for herself, and it's just like slowly gets chipped away.
Oh, I mean, I can't wait till it gets shipped away, but I also love this moment that we're having right now where I feel like as a viewer, I have a different interpretation of like what's happening with her, which is wrong because I didn't perform it, nor did I write the script or anything.
Not wrong.
But this idea that I mean, she's diving herself into her past in order to perform this version, the sort of best idea of herself as an actress at this point.
Yeah, it starts there, and I don't want to give away too much, but I think that that's the intention, and that she's sort of, you know, she's looking for a healing process for her trauma in maybe the wrong place. I don't think that Gene M. Cousineau is a licensed therapist. So
going through his own thing
yes,
right now.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think that she dives into that with a sort of sense of excitement and maybe even a slightly smug quality of that she's been through more maybe than her peers, and that might make her a better actor.
Or that she's so over this that she can now just use it as a tool in her acting toolbox.
Yeah, totally. But, you know, I think that quickly sort of slaps her in the face, so without giving anything away.
I mean, you know, I hate to ask this question in regards to this show because it's a very hacky question, but so much of the show is about the tools, good or bad, that are taught to actors, especially when it comes to your character and Barry's as well. Has there ever been a scenario when you were coming up and you were trying to be an actress and it was like, you know, use this horrible thing that happened to you for this class, and you were like, I don't necessarily feel like I need to do that?
Yeah, I think that that's a real thing that happens in acting classes, and a sort of slightly manipulative thing that can happen. I was
on sets as well.
And on sets, yeah. I was kind of lucky that I was raised in the British system, and I went over to London when I was 19 and went to theater school over there. And I feel like if you take yourself that seriously, you get deported. So I think that sort of the tactic out there is more, you know, that the character is way over there and you walk toward the character rather than you sort of looking internally and taking your own personal experiences and making that the work. I love that. I love that way of working because it's story driven, and the focus is then not on you in a way, and you can be bolder and braver in a sense. So I've never, in my theater school in London, I mean, we did a lot of weird stuff, a lot of like rolling around on the floor, a lot of different breathing exercises, and we started in like Greek theater and worked our way forward. But no, it wasn't the type of place where you could sort of air your childhood traumas, which I'm very grateful for. I truly am. I don't think it would have served me very well.
That is the kind of acting teaching that is basically, like you said, walk towards the character, but mainly it's about just diving in and doing it and not having to center yourself too much in the character, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's more fun and more interesting to sort of, there's a story that was written before you came onto a project, and I think that it's exciting to walk toward it rather than to try to morph it into something familiar. I feel like the fun comes in inventing that person. And, you know, I find that sort of meeting it that way is more interesting and exciting, and then it becomes more of a collaborative venture where you're sort of the writing and the actor are meeting each other somewhere in the middle, and hopefully if it's a good cast, then the group comes together on top of that. So
and that place in the middle is where you do end up finding kind of yourself in the character, though. Maybe it's not a tragic emotional thing, it's just sort of how you're comfortable doing those lines and doing those scenes.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I try to let the rhythm of the writing sort of dictate where it starts, you know. And
good writing for
good
that.
writing.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm very lucky with very good writing on my job. Yeah, because I've had my moments where that's not the case, and it's a challenge.
This doesn't track. How do I just do it? Okay, sorry.
I think I've said just those very words. But yeah, it's yeah, I guess you're bringing yourself to it in that it's your voice and it's your hair sometimes, and it's you know, it's your physicality. But I think that it's fun to sort of walk away from that as much as you can and walk toward whatever the rhythms of that person are.
Do you, when you're playing Sally and you're going into these scenes, do you start thinking about what the show is saying about performance or about writing, or for you is it really like Sally is going through this in this moment in this scene, and I have to do that?
I think it's kind of both, to be honest. You know, it's challenging. Like, it's most of the main characters on the show are male, and so, you know, we have this kind of outside eye a little bit on Sally sometimes, which can be exciting and also frustrating, where I did feel huge responsibility this year with sort of everything that's going on in the world and the content that we have chosen to go with, where, yes, you're sort of coming at it from within the perimeters of the character and like looking at it from her point of view, but ultimately with some of the stuff we were working on this season, I felt it was important to sort of ask a few more macro questions about what we were doing. And I think the boys being Bill Hader and Alec Berg, who create the show, felt the same way. And we were all quite vigilant with the sensitive topic that we were dealing with, but also not wanting to be bogged down by this idea of like Sally as some kind of every woman, you know, and that what she's doing is some statement that we're making about women. And we're sort of, I think as
and you
women,
get pretentious and nobody,
completely.
yeah.
And it's not real and it's not coming from the place of the character. And I think it is a tough onus that women have sometimes, you know, and especially on this show where, as you know, the only female series regular, it can be hard where we all kind of have to catch ourselves and go, what are we saying? And it's like, no, you know, let's stick to Sally's trajectory here and move forward with that and trust that if we just do it honestly and commit to her and her sometimes bizarre antics, that we will, you know, do right by her. And that's what I feel my responsibility is.
Well, if you've set up who she is well enough from the beginning and how she's going to handle and what she wants and how she's going to handle what's around her, the truth is going to be the only thing that makes her character interesting consistently.
Yeah.
As soon as, like you said, she starts becoming some sort of weird
like,
representative of everything. There's no jokes.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
boring.
And we get really meta and sort of play with that of Sally's own frustration of feeling like she's some kind of representative of the female species. So, yeah, I mean, it's an interesting...
Right, we see at one point, I don't think this is a spoiler, maybe it's in, but she's unhappy with where she is in her career.
Yes.
But at the same time, is getting work.
Yes.
Like, that's such a weird duality to have there because it's like, she is like a struggling actress in LA, but is getting work. And now she's reached a point where it's not the work she wants.
Right. And I mean, I can relate to that and a bit of a be careful what you wish for sort of scenario. And I think she's constantly grappling with, you know, some kind of burning artistic sensibility that's deeply buried under her narcissism and vanity, that is wanting to sort of come out. It's sort of bubbling underneath all that. And then this kind of ambition, this kind of myopia that she's got, where she just sees this one track of what being an actor is. And so I think her frustration, I think, is pretty justified in the beginning without giving anything away, but also there's a vanity to it that's infuriating for her peers. And I mean, it's difficult, you know, life as an actor is not linear. And I've certainly had it in my career where you have these moments where you have a brilliant job and, you know, you got the backstage code to the Young Vic Theatre in London, and you have like this dressing room that's yours and this company that's your family, and you can't believe it. You can basically almost pay your rent, and, you know, and then that gets cut off. Yeah. And suddenly you're like standing in Leicester Square with like a poster for Bad Girls the Musical, you know, for like 20 pounds an hour or whatever. And
is this real?
This is real. This is dirty turning into therapy now. Let's go all the way back.
No, this is amazing.
No, I was working when I left drama school. My first job was this brilliant play, and I was like, oh my God, being an actor is so easy. I can't believe it. And that lasted for 3 months. And then I worked in a gastropub, and then there was this job going around for we had these alumni email groups of, temporary work you could do. And so one of my jobs was standing in Leicester Square with a sign for a poster for Bad Girls, the musical, which Bad Girls was a television show in the UK. But this guy came up to me and he was like, "Are you Bad Girl?" And I was like, okay, quit. I lasted like one shift, but the money was so good for one of those jobs, I think I was making like £6 an hour in my pub, and it was like 20 quid to stand there with that sign. But no, I didn't last. But yeah, you have these drop-off points, and it's difficult to adjust. And even now, it's like I have this amazing, brilliant show that I feel so grateful for. But then you finish a season of television and you're working these 16-hour days and you're so fundamental to a process and have such a sense of purpose. And then there's a drop-off point when the job is over. And I think that kind of roller coaster of what that is real. And I think Sally's kind of walking toward that, maybe, where she thought, if I get this job, I'm going to be happy. Or if I get this thing, I'm going to be happy. Or if I get this thing, I'll feel I've made it. And she's not really figuring out any of the real stuff in life that needs to be addressed or looked at.
She is going to, but in a very backwards
Yes.
way.
Yes.
That's what I sort of love about it.
Yeah, exactly. She likes to play the short game with her career, but she's really going the long way around with life lessons. So season 68, she'll have some wisdom.
So what did you think when they first brought you these scripts and started talking to you about exploring this aspect of who she was? Did you have any idea that this would be the case?
Yeah. I mean, they're such collaborative bosses. They really are anomalies, both of them. They're just so open. And so they started talking to me about where they saw it going, and I was totally game. But equally, they're like, we're men and we're white men, and what do you think? So they really listen to my thoughts on her and the angle that she's coming from. And so it was quite a collaborative experience, kind of mapping out where it was all going. And I was well up for let's go darker. It's fun to play that stuff. So yeah, I mean, I think this season is much more ambitious in a lot of ways, and all the characters, you start to see their veneers crack. And I mean, Stephen Root this season is just unbelievable, and Fuchs is just such a brilliant character, and where it goes it's really exciting. It's fun to watch them all sort of floundering, and they get like closer to a better version of themselves, and then they like boomerang right back, and it's fun.
The first season, I was so impressed by how it raised the stakes in every episode.
Yeah.
It was never repeating itself, but it felt like it just perfectly ratcheted up the stakes for Barry in every episode in unexpected ways.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what to say about that other than they're really, really smart,
They're good bosses.
And they work really, really hard. Sometimes these ideas, where they come from, it's really extraordinary to watch the two of them work. And I think from Bill's experience on SNL, what amazes me about how he works is he throws out so many ideas. There's no bad ideas. It's just this onslaught of ideas, and in there is a good one, and that there's no sort of embarrassment or hesitation in throwing out all of these ideas, which I think is so useful and beneficial to be around, and has helped me a lot on set, and all the stuff that we get to try. And then Alec is just so meticulous, and he's so good at building story and
doing it for
oh my gosh, and you'll do a scene and you'll do like 3 takes and be quite pleased with yourself and be like, wow, I was into that. And then he comes over and he's like, there's just this thing, and he'll give you one note that's like, oh, and it completely shifts the story, and suddenly we're in a land of so much more detail. He's very, very good. And so the combo of the two of them is just, it's lovely.
I think we have time for a question from the audience. Who has a question? Someone is right here.
Hi.
I was just wondering what the hallmarks or components you have or in the show of Barry that you think make a successful episode.
Oh, this is a really good question. I don't know. I mean, I think that this show like shouldn't work in a weird way. It's like two completely opposite shows crammed into one half-hour comedy that's mostly fairly dramatic. So I think the hallmarks of it are when we see Barry go through some moment of progress or epiphany or when he totally goes back and we see the true darkness come out. I think those episodes are really fun because we watch someone sort of inching towards something and then it just being so dark on the other, when the pendulum swings back. I think Henry always needs some firecracker anecdotes and that's always good for the comedy aspect. I mean, I think they just build it so cleverly that I don't really know what their secret is. I'm still figuring it out.
But they check in with you all the time too, you said.
They check in with all of us. I mean, and it's just a sign of their humility and that they have kind of an egoless way of working where there's a real best idea wins kind of attitude on set. And I think they want everyone's like you were talking about earlier with whether you're coming in on the angle of the character or the story, they want everyone's character angle coming in strong. And they, Bill said to me, like in season 1, we were lucky enough to get all 8 scripts before we shot, which is like such a luxury and really doesn't happen. And we had 4 scripts, and then halfway through he called me up and he's like, so I need your notes. I was like, excuse me? And he's like, yeah, what are your notes? I was like, my notes? But you're a real hater. And I don't have notes. And he's like, well, we're at that point where, you know the character better than we do. So can you go through it and tell us if there's anything you don't think she would say? And so, and I spoke up about things and they're really, really open and receptive to that. And I think they understand that it just makes the show stronger, that we're all sort of out there, putting our ideas into the pot too. So
the role of the actor speaking up on set or beforehand, and even if it's like the most collaborative environment possible, to me that is like the most vulnerable place on set, is when the actor feels like they have to say something and everybody else is doing everything to get something set for them.
Yeah.
And but they have to say something because it's like
Yeah.
it is their character, but you are like you have
But
to find the right
what's lovely
moment.
is like
So
we just don't have to fight for that on the set. I think maybe because Bill is an actor and he's been in that position for so long that he actually asks. So you're not really there going, you've actually been asked. And so, I mean, it's a really special environment in that way, unique.
well, I love the show. I'm so happy it's
Thanks,
back.
Ricky.
Congratulations.
Thank you so
And
much.
thanks for coming back. It's good to
Thanks
see
for
you.
having me.
Yeah,
I love this rug.
back for the rug only. Barry's on HBO Sunday night. Sarah Goldberg, everybody, let's hear it.
Thank you. Thanks.